The rain started before Daniel noticed it. At first, it was only a soft tapping against the tall glass windows of the office, almost gentle, like someone asking permission to be heard. The workday had stretched longer than planned, and most of the floor was already empty. The lights above flickered slightly as evening settled in. Outside, Seattle moved slowly, wrapped in gray skies and wet streets. Daniel stood near the window, his laptop closed, but his thoughts wide open. He had finished his tasks, replied to the last email, and checked the time twice, yet he did not leave. Something held him there. He watched cars pass below, their headlights reflecting off the pavement, and felt a familiar restlessness rise in his chest. It was not new, but tonight it felt stronger, more demanding. He was 34 and had learned how to live carefully. He paid his bills on time, woke up early, and avoided risks that could disturb his calm routine. Friends described him as steady, dependable, and kind. No one ever called him bold. He had once believed that being careful was the same as being wise. Over time, he realized it also meant leaving many things unspoken. Across the room, Emily was packing her bag. She moved with quiet confidence, slipping her notebook inside, folding her scarf with care. Daniel noticed these small details more than he admitted. He'd noticed them for months. The way she focused deeply when listening, the way she smiled only when she meant it, the way she paused before speaking, as if choosing honesty over speed. They had met on a normal Monday morning, introduced during a team meeting that lasted too long. Emily had joined the company after moving from Portland, looking for a fresh start. Daniel had offered help with reports and systems, nothing personal, nothing risky. That was how it began, professional, safe. Over time, their conversations grew. Longer coffee breaks turned into shared lunches. Deadlines brought late evenings and quiet teamwork. They spoke about books, favorite places, small memories from childhood, yet they never spoke about the feelings that slowly filled the space between words. Daniel told himself it was respect. Emily told herself it was caution. Emily had learned to be cautious the hard way. Her last relationship had ended quietly but painfully, leaving her with questions that never received answers. She promised herself she would never again ask someone to stay, never lean too far forward emotionally. She rebuilt her life piece by piece, choosing peace over passion, safety over uncertainty. Daniel did not know all of this, but he sensed her carefulness. It made him careful too. That evening, the office felt different. The silence was heavier. Not uncomfortable, but full. The kind of silence that waits. Daniel glanced at Emily again. She checked her phone, then looked up and caught his eyes. They shared a small smile, one that carried more meaning than it should have. Daniel felt a shift inside him. For weeks, he had been pushing away a thought that kept returning. It refused to leave. He realized he was tired of being careful in ways that left him empty. He was tired of carrying feelings quietly and calling it maturity. Emily slipped her coat on and walked toward the exit. The sound of her footsteps echoed softly across the floor. Daniel knew if she left now, the moment would disappear. He would return to his apartment, make dinner, and tell himself tomorrow was a better day to speak. Tomorrow always felt safer. But it never came. His heart beat faster. He felt foolish, then honest, then afraid. He opened his mouth once and closed it again. His hands tightened slightly at his sides. He reminded himself that asking was not demanding. It was not crossing a line. It was simply telling the truth. "Emily," he said, his voice steady but low. She stopped and turned. Her expression was open. Curious, calm. Yes, the word hung between them. Daniel searched for the right sentence, one that would protect them both. But the right sentence did not come. Instead, something simpler arose. "Do you ever feel like you're waiting for something?" he asked. "Even when you don't know what it is?" Emily blinked, surprised. She studied his face carefully. as if reading something new there. The office lights reflected softly in her eyes. She did not answer right away. "Yes," she said slowly. "I think I do." Her honesty gave him courage. He took a small step forward, not physically, but emotionally. He felt exposed, but also lighter. "I've been feeling that way lately," Daniel continued. "Like there's a question I keep avoiding." Emily's breath caught slightly, though she kept her expression calm. She felt the same pull, the same unspoken tension. She had sensed it for months, but refused to name it. The rain outside grew, louder as if urging them on. Daniel paused. He realized this was the moment, the one that arrived quietly but changed things. He did not yet say everything he wanted to say, but he knew he was close. His heart told him something important. He asked honestly, whatever the answer was, he could accept it. Emily waited, her bag resting against her side. She felt nervous, but also strangely peaceful. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel the need to protect herself from the moment. Daniel inhaled slowly. He knew that what he was about to request was not a demand or a promise. Was the door gently opened, and as the rain continued to fall outside the glass walls? Both of them stood still, aware that life sometimes offered only one chance to speak before silence returned. Daniel's words lingered in the air longer than he expected. The soft hum of the office computers and the distant tap of rain against the windows seemed louder now. Filling the space between them, he felt his chest tighten with anticipation, the kind that made time both slow and sharp. Every second stretched like a thread ready to snap, and he wondered if Emily would understand what he truly meant. He hadn't rehearsed this moment in detail, but deep down, he knew it was now or never. Emily's eyes didn't waver. She studied him with a mixture of curiosity and caution, as if measuring whether his honesty was safe to accept. Daniel noticed the subtle change in her posture, her shoulders relaxed, her hands unclenched. It was a small gesture, almost imperceptible, but it told him she was listening not just with her ears, but with her heart. That realization gave him a quiet surge of hope. "I don't want to make things complicated," Daniel said, his voice low but steady. I want to know you better. Not just as my coworker, not just as someone I see every day, but as you fully. And I'm willing to take the risk, whatever it means for us." Emily blinked, absorbing the weight of his words. She had been cautious for so long, always guarding herself against disappointment, always refusing to let anyone in too close. But there was something in Daniel's tone, calm, sincere, patient, that made her heart soften. For months, she had noticed the quiet kindness behind his smiles. The way he remembered small details about her day, the way he seemed to care without needing recognition. Now all of that came together in one honest confession, and it felt impossible. To ignore, she took a small step closer, though neither of them moved beyond the safe distance of the office space. It was symbolic more than physical, a bridge forming between two hesitant hearts. You're serious," she said quietly. "You really mean this?" Daniel nodded. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," he admitted. "I don't want to rush, and I don't want to force anything. I just needed to be honest about how I feel, about how I've been feeling for a long time." The rain intensified outside, creating a rhythm that matched the beat of their shared tension. Daniel felt the familiar walls he had built around his heart begin to crack. Vulnerability was uncomfortable, but it also brought a strange relief. He realized that asking for this chance, this possibility, was not about guaranteeing happiness. It was about choosing to step forward despite the uncertainty. Emily looked at him for a long moment, her thoughts racing. She remembered past disappointments, the quiet heartbreaks that had taught her to be cautious. Yet she also remembered moments of warmth, brief but unforgettable, shared with Daniel. How he had stayed calm when others panicked. How he had listened when others lectured. How he had smiled in ways that felt rare and sincere. Her own feelings had grown quietly, like roots deep underground, unseen until they were strong enough. To hold her weight, finally she spoke. "I'm glad you asked," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Because I was. I was waiting for you too." Daniel felt a wave of relief wash over him. It wasn't a promise of forever, not yet, but it was more than he had dared to hope for. In that moment, he understood the quiet power of patience, of timing, of speaking from the heart when the moment was right. He didn't need grand gestures or declarations. He only needed honesty, and Emily's response had given him exactly that. They walked together toward the exit, their steps slow but unhurried. The office lights reflected on the wet floors, casting soft shadows that moved with them. Outside, the rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle, leaving the streets glistening under the city lights. Daniel felt a sense of peace he hadn't realized he was missing. The fear of rejection, the anxiety of uncertainty, had been replaced by something far more profound: a shared understanding, the mutual willingness to see what could grow as they stepped onto the wet pavement. Daniel glanced at Emily. The coat around her shoulders looked heavier than it was, weighed down by the day, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Her smile, now easy and unguarded, reached her eyes in a way that made his chest ache with something tender and new. He realized that attraction was more than physical. It was built in moments like this: trust, patience, understanding, and the courage to step forward when it mattered most. Emily noticed the small signs of nervousness in Daniel Tutha's slight tremble in his hands, the way he kept adjusting the strap of his bag. She felt a warmth that was both comforting and thrilling. For so long, she had told herself to wait, to protect her heart. But now, standing beside Daniel, she understood that some moments were worth the risk. They didn't speak for a while, letting the silence speak instead. Words were unnecessary. Their presence carried the meaning. The city buzzed softly around them, umbrellas bobbing along the sidewalks, headlights reflecting in puddles. Rain-scented air filled their lungs, fresh and clean, almost symbolic of a new beginning. Finally, Emily broke the quiet. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, not with hesitation but with curiosity. Daniel smiled, feeling the tension ease completely. "We take it one step at a time," he said. "No rush, no pressure, just learning more about each other, seeing where it leads, together." The words felt right, not overthought or rehearsed, just natural. Emily nodded, feeling a calm excitement that was rare in her life. She had spent so long protecting herself, building walls, avoiding risks. Yet here she was, willingly stepping into something uncertain, something beautiful. They walked slowly down the street, side by side, the rain now a gentle mist. Daniel noticed the subtle changes in the world around them, the streetlights reflecting. In puddles, the soft glow of cafe windows, the occasional sound of laughter carried on the wind. Everything seemed sharper, brighter, more meaningful. It was as if the world itself had paused to acknowledge this new possibility. Emily glanced at him, her eyes reflecting both the streetlights and something deeper: curiosity, hope, and a quiet joy. "I think I've been waiting for someone to see me like this," she said softly. Daniel felt a lump form in his throat. "Then I'm glad I finally did," he replied. It wasn't dramatic, but it was true. Simple, honest, and heartfelt. That was all that mattered. For the first time in a long while, both of them felt seen without judgment, understood without expectation. They weren't promising forever, but they were promising the chance to explore, to feel, and to grow together. And that, they both knew, was enough for now. The rain stopped completely as they approached the corner where they would part ways for the evening. Daniel hesitated, not wanting the night to end, and Emily seemed to feel the same. They exchanged one final look, full of unspoken promises, quiet excitement, and the gentle acknowledgement of something new beginning. "See you tomorrow?" Daniel asked, almost hesitantly, afraid to break the fragile magic of the moment. Emily smiled, a real full smile. "See you tomorrow," she confirmed. As they walked in opposite directions, both felt a sense of lightness, as if a weight had been lifted. The fear of silence, the anxiety of unspoken feelings, had been replaced by hope. And deep down, both of them understood that asking for what mattered honestly, sincerely, was the first step toward something extraordinary. Daniel walked home slowly, replaying the moment in his mind, savoring every detail, the sound of her voice, the warmth in her eyes, the soft weight of possibility that now existed between them. Emily walked with her own thoughts, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. She had allowed herself to hope, to feel, and to accept. In the quiet of their separate homes, both knew the same truth, that the moment of courage, the moment to ask, to risk, to be honest, had changed everything. It had not guaranteed happiness, but it had opened the door. And sometimes that was all that mattered. The city slept under the lingering scent of rain, unaware of the small, powerful change between two hearts. Tomorrow would come with challenges, work, and ordinary life. But tonight, Daniel and Emily had discovered something rare and precious. The first spark of trust, attraction, an understanding that could grow into something far greater. And so the night ended not with a grand declaration, not with fireworks or drama, but with quiet steps, gentle smiles, and the promise of something real, something chosen, something earned. Something that began simply because one person had dared to ask, the other had dared to believe. The moment had arrived. And with it, both Daniel and Emily had found what they had been waiting for all along: the courage to ask, the willingness to receive, and the beginning of a connection that neither time nor distance could easily erase. The rain, now gone, left behind a glimmer of city lights, reflecting in the puddles like a mirror of possibility. In those reflections, both of them saw not only themselves, but the promise of a future where honesty, vulnerability, and careful love could flourish. And as they drifted into their separate evenings, one thought lingered clearly in both hearts. Some moments only come once, and when they do, they change everything.